Leaders of India and the United States announce a trade deal with Washington set to cut tariffs on New Delhi from 50 to 18%. India says key domestic sectors, they have been protected. We look at the big questions hanging over this agreement and what India stands to gain. In a first major international interview, Sri Lanka's Prime Minister Harini Amarasuriya speaks exclusively to RT India. She signals talks, BRICS aspirations, Russia and oil, and the Global South's strengthening status in the world. India's Supreme Court gives a blunt message to Meta, flagging concerns over WhatsApp's data sharing practices. The tech giant's been told to comply with privacy or get out. Hello and welcome. You're watching RT India. I am Osama Shab, live from New Delhi. We have a packed bulletin ahead with major world developments, including our top story. Have Donald Trump and Narendra Modi landed the daddy of all deals? Well, many of the finer points in a US-India trade agreement, they are still unknown after the leaders made a shock announcement on social media. But the US president, he has confirmed he's slashing tariffs on Indian exports to 18%. In fact, it has seen stock markets jump and exporters likely breathing a sigh of relief. In fact, to break it all down, I'm joined in the studio now by RT India's Rujuta Thete for more on this. Rujuta, give us the details. What do we know so far?
So right now, after months of friction and stalled negotiations, the announcement of a trade deal between India and the United States took many by surprise. But when Trump, who had punished India with tariffs as high as 50%, made this announcement on Truth Social, he left many questions unanswered. A big issue at talks between the two sides, where India had drawn a red line, was agriculture. And while the United States wanted India to open its farm sector, India had remained steadfast that this won't happen. India's Commerce Minister says the interest of farmers and the dairy sector have been protected in the India-US trade deal.
PM Narendra Modi has always taken care of agriculture and dairy sector stakeholders. He has worked for the upliftment of farmers. The PM has never made any compromise. In the trade deal with the US, our sensitive sectors such as agriculture and dairy have been protected well.
New US-India deal will export more American farm products to India's massive market, lifting prices and pumping cash into rural America. In 2024, America's agricultural trade deficit with India was $1.3 billion. India's growing population is an important market for American agricultural products, and today's deal will go a long way to reducing this deficit.
Now, another key point of contention between the two sides was energy. Washington publicly tied any tariff relief to India, stopping or reducing purchases of Russian oil. And now Trump claims that India has agreed to halt Russian oil imports and instead expand purchases of US and potentially Venezuelan crude oil. He has also thus withdrawn the additional penalty tariff linked to Russian oil imports, marking a major turnaround from last year. Now, Delhi, however, is yet to publicly make any such commitment on Russian oil imports. Moscow, however, here is taking a note of this.
Moscow has not yet received any statements about India halting purchases of Russian oil. Russia intends to continue to develop its relations with India in every possible way.
Now, although the details of the deal are still tumbling out, India surely is heaving a sigh of relief. That's because different industry sectors are hoping to make gains because of the lower tariffs. India's Commerce Minister says that the details about this will be out soon.
Today, 140 crore Indians are celebrating a trade deal which is under final stages of detailing between the negotiating teams of both countries. We will be shortly issuing a joint statement by both countries along with the details which we will be shortly inking between the United States of America and India. And as soon as the final understanding of the deal is inked and the joint statement is finalized, technical processes are completed, full details will be shared.
Now, the reduced rate of 18% tariffs make Indian products more competitive in the US markets as against countries such as Indonesia, Vietnam, Bangladesh and China, which have much higher rates. As tariff on its exports come down, merchandise exports worth an estimated $48.2 billion to the US may benefit in the immediate run, as per the Commerce Ministry. The government is expecting a boost for labor-intensive sectors such as textiles, leather and footwear. Now remember, India's total merchandise exports to the US stood at $86 billion in 2024 and 25. Sectors like textiles, gems and jewelry, marine products, chemicals and leather exports, all these sectors are now expecting to make gains through increased access to the US markets. However, several other sectors will continue to face higher tariffs, and these include steel and aluminium products, vehicle and auto components, industrial machinery and other engineering goods. And that is because these industries are considered strategic and thus covered under the Section 232 of US Trade Expansion Act. Now, tariffs imposed under this section are non-negotiable. But over the past few months, India had already dented some of the US tariff pressure through trade deals with the European Union, the UK, UAE, New Zealand, Australia, Mauritius, and even Oman. Now, with both the US and European markets becoming favorable for Indian exports, there is expectations that manufacturing and growth in India may get a significant boost.
All right, Rujita Thede, thank you very much for breaking it down for us and helping our viewers understand the nitty-gritties here. In fact, we are also now joined by Mr. Kanwal Sibal. He is the former Foreign Secretary of India. Mr. Sibal, thank you very much for speaking with RT India. First of all, going by what the Commerce Minister has said, he says that the deal is still in the final stages of detailing. If that is the case, can we say, and is it fair to say that this is de-escalation first and agreement later?
No, I think Mr. Goyal and other spokespersons on the Indian side have been saying for some months now that everything has been concluded in terms of negotiations by the respective sides. All that is needed is for the President Trump to approve the deal. And in fact, Mr. Piyush Goyal has said that there is nothing further left to negotiate. Now, that being the case, it's not as if we are going to start negotiating afresh or make fresh concessions. It is simply that earlier what we had agreed to is a framework agreement, and now it has to be put in writing in a structured manner or whatever the format is, and then it has to be inked. And then, as the Commerce Minister says, they'll issue a joint statement. So I won't say that there's any scope left for further negotiation, or the American side expecting some additional concessions to come from our side, or the American side making any concessions that we want.
So, Mr. Sibal, what should we read into the fact that only Washington is making such sweeping claims so far, whether it is about the Russian oil, whether it is about agriculture, whether it is about the $500 billion trade that it is going to do with India? Just help us understand that.
Well, firstly, I think the US and President Trump and his advisors realized that they were not going they're not going to be able to extract any further concessions from India by maintaining these 50% tariffs. In fact, US was losing a great deal of goodwill in India, and US companies and investors were feeling concerned about this uncertainty, and they wanted it to be removed. Now, the trigger, to my mind, for this decision by President Trump to announce this deal is the India-EU trade agreement.
Yeah.
Because the entire strategy of the United States has been built on using tariffs as a weapon and using the coercive power of tariffs to extract concessions from India. But the India and EU have followed a totally different approach. The approach is of reducing tariffs. And in fact, on some of the labor-intensive products, the EU will reduce tariffs to zero. So the entire logic was different. And India has signed FTAs with other countries, as you know, and is now negotiating with some more countries, which means that the United States must have realized that this is not going anywhere, and that India is weathering the pressure that is on them because of these high tariffs, and therefore it was time to step back. But now, President Trump, given his character, is not going to accept that he has yielded ground. That's why in his post on Truth Social, first of all, he says that India requested me. I don't think this is quite true that India requested him, but he has to put it that way.
Yeah.
Number two, he's talked about India making some commitments, and it's important for him to say this because the Indian side has not made any, to my mind, I don't think that the Indian side has made any commitments, but he has to explain to his public, to his base, why suddenly he has stepped back.
Yeah.
And therefore, he's claiming that he has succeeded with India and with Prime Minister Modi the way he has succeeded with the EU and with Japan and with South Korea and with Saudi Arabia and UAE, where all of them made big commitments of investing in the United States, buying oil and everything else. So he has to say this.
Yeah.
Then he has to also, and he has linked that the peace process in Ukraine will be now, he says, facilitated because India has said they will not be buying oil from Russia. He has to take this line because the 25% penalty tariffs were imposed because India was buying oil from Russia.
Yeah.
In February, we had agreed that our mutual trade target would be $500 billion by 2030. Now, he's used that figure to say that we have made a commitment.
Correct.
And that we'll be buying technology and coal and energy and agriculture products, and that we will move to zero tariffs. I can assure you, the Commerce Minister, of course, is the person who should give this assurance, and he's given that. I don't for a moment believe that we will give zero tariffs across the board on agriculture. There's no way. Yes, there's some concessions will be made on some products, which we have already agreed to. And these will be announced shortly when they give the text of the agreement between the two sides. So in short, Trump is exaggerating his success because he has to do that. The fact is, and mind you, let me say there's a good thing what has happened because a lot of uncertainty was being created. We were losing market in some of the labor-intensive products. We will be able to recover that ground. And generally, the atmosphere will improve. Even on the investment side, there'll be a positive impact. But we are letting Trump say this because from the Prime Minister's side, he simply said that it's wonderful that we have agreed to this and the tariffs will be 18%. He's not said anything else at all. At all.
Absolutely.
Because what Prime Minister has said is the reality. That is a positive step. We welcome it. It's wonderful news, but that's it. But Trump has his compulsions, and he has to make it appear that he always wins success, and that his art of the deal is such that, he always succeeds.
Yeah. Mr. Sibul, one thing that we have learned over the past 1 year is that you do not take everything on its face value when it comes from the US president. Having said that, Let's talk about the red lines, which are agriculture and dairy. And India has reiterated this time and again that, look, this is where the buck stops. This is the red line, and we're not going to cross. When the Commerce Minister, he says that India will protect agriculture and dairy sector, does that effectively rule out market access for US dairy?
Well, I don't know the inside story, but I've been reading, as you might have been reading, that there was some demand on the American side for high quality cheese and stuff like that. If some of those things meet our requirements, then some small concessions can be made in this area. But if you know that when it came to our negotiations with the UK or with the EU or with New Zealand, we have protected, or Australia, we have protected the dairy sector.
Yeah.
So there's no way that we are going to give to the Americans what we haven't given to countries like New Zealand and Australia, which are very, very big dairy sectors. Yes, some few concessions here and there in a pragmatic way, subject to quotas, can be made, and it's a good thing. Some concessions have to be made, but these will be such that will not affect the basic position that we have, that we are not going to accept to bring agriculture and dairy into the trade deal, and this includes the GMOs and all that. Yeah. When the U.S. Agriculture Secretary says that now U.S. farmers will have this and will have that, I think it's an exaggeration. He jumped the gun a bit. But yes, pistachios, almonds, blueberries, or stuff like that will come in. Some other products may come in, but it won't be all that very much, and we will very carefully guard our agriculture and dairy sectors.
All right. Mr. Kamal Sibal, thank you very much for speaking with RT India.
Thank you.
In a world exclusive, the Sri Lanka leader sat down with RT India for a first major international interview. Harini Amarasuriya, she discussed cooperation with Russia on energy, why BRICS is on Colombo's radar, and the shifting balance of power in the world. Take a listen.
Sri Lanka has shown interest in joining BRICS.
Yes.
What is the strategic appeal of BRICS for Sri Lanka?
We are a small country. If we want to meet the kinds of targets we have set ourselves in terms of economic growth, then we need to expand our markets. We need to grow beyond our borders. And for that, we need strong collaboration, stability in the region, cooperation in the region. And for us, then, BRICS is part of our overall strategy of strengthening regional, global partnerships and our foreign policy in general, which is about collaboration, multilateralism, and strong cooperation globally and especially regionally.
Reports suggest that Colombo may be interested in buying discounted Russian crude. How do you view this option?
First of all of these discussions are at a very preliminary stage. We've not set any deadlines or timelines for any of this, but each country has the freedom and has the right to take sovereign decisions regarding its energy policy, energy requirements. And we respect each country's right to do that, right? So similarly, Sri Lanka will also look for the best option that it can give its people with regard to energy, its energy requirements. So we will engage in talks.
Will Meta get the message? Well, the Supreme Court of India has issued a strong warning to the tech giant. It stressed India will not compromise on privacy as it objected to WhatsApp's 2021 policy on data sharing practices.
You can't play with privacy. We will not allow you to share a single digit of our data. If you can't follow our constitution, leave India. We won't allow citizens' privacy to be compromised.
With over 500 million WhatsApp users in India, the case traces back to a policy update 5 years ago. The Competition Commission of India, it ruled in 2024 that WhatsApp, it had crossed the line and that the messaging platform was abusing its dominant market position, forcing people to accept the terms. Now, the commission imposed a penalty of almost $24 million, which Meta has paid. Meta and WhatsApp did, however, challenge it in January 2025. But by November last year, the tribunal, it lifted a 5-year ban on data sharing, but it upheld that fine, effectively keeping the privacy battle alive. In fact, to sum up, WhatsApp's 2021 policy, it left users with a stark choice: accept mandatory data sharing with Meta or lose access to the app. Now, India's responded to Meta's take it or leave it approach with a clear message: follow the constitution or get out. In fact, we can now cross live to tech policy expert Mr. Amit Dubey for joining us here on RT India. Mr. Dubey, thank you very much for speaking to us. Firstly, when you look at this decision from the Supreme Court, is this, and when you look at the entire case, is this case really about WhatsApp's policy or about who controls Indians' data?
Actually, this warning is applicable to all intermediaries, whoever are taking data. It's not only specific to WhatsApp, first of all, though the case was linked to only Meta, and that's why it is given to Meta. But the data is being collected by all the intermediaries, all applications, all games, and similar kind of data, though people are not aware of. For example, if I ask you, do you know that what data Facebook is collecting from your device, or what data WhatsApp has been collecting from your device? You may not be knowing, because when you installed it, you accepted all the terms and conditions, but you didn't check explicitly that what kind of specific data they are collecting. So for that, I would suggest each one of you to do an exercise. Go to Play Store, search Facebook or WhatsApp, whatever applications you have in your phone. And then once you see the icon, click on it. There will be an option called Data Safety. Click on that Data Safety icon, and then there's an option called See Details. Then click on it. So you have to click at least 3-4 times to reach to that page to understand what data they have been collecting. And this data includes your political ideology, to whom you voted. Data includes your religious ideology and whether you are liberal, soft, hard about your religion. The data includes your financial transactions details. Data includes your health details. The data includes your contact details, locations, your voices, your recordings, your photos, your videos, everything. Now, if you don't know this and you are using that app, which means this consensus or this acceptance has been given forcibly, because there's no option to block it or to not give this data. So if you are using Facebook, you have to. Now, this is the concern. This is the prime reason that Supreme Court of India has given this warning to Meta, that you can't forcibly take this data out, and you have to follow the Indian Constitution, where we give the privacy as a fundamental right.
Mr. Dubey, how worried should an average Indian be when it comes to using platforms like the WhatsApp?
See, so WhatsApp has been claiming that they don't share this data out, but then there are various options through which the data can be leaked. For example, now every such messaging app has introduced AI, and then they give summary of it, and so AI is anyway reading this data.
Yeah.
So you should educate your users, first of all, that if they are not enabling or disabling some features, what all risks are there of data sharing? By default, you can't just assume that everybody knows about it. That is a big risk. For example, Google is also reading all your data. And by default, we give all the permissions to Google. We don't even check those permissions. So this is a big, big risk. And I think by default, you should not take that data. By default, you should give this freedom to them that we are not collecting this data. Only if you want this data to be shared, then only you should go and check or enable that feature. I think this should be the tradition. Rather, it is other way around. By default, they take everything, and there's no option. Most of the time, you don't have even an option to stop.
Yeah.
So I think everybody should be worried, because this data time to time gets leaked. It goes to wrong hands. And then this is the basic reason. This is the fundamental reason of cybercrime. Every cybercrime starts with a data leak. If the criminal is not aware about your data, they don't have the details of your banking balances or the transaction details or your phone numbers or other personal details, how would they reach to you? Okay. Why would they call you? And this is the prime reason. So we ensure the privacy, then only we can regulate or counter the cybercrime in a larger way.
Yeah, so according to what has been discussed, Meta basically assumes that WhatsApp's scale in India, it would outweigh all the regulations, is what we understand by and large. Now, when you talk about that policy, that take it or leave it policy of WhatsApp, do you see this as an abuse of dominance in a digital monopoly? And can it be stopped? That is the big question.
It can be stopped. See, that's what, in fact, many times it has been tried. If you remember in 2016 also, UK government has taken a call in parliament that they can throw out WhatsApp from their country if they don't share this data. So this is because the WhatsApp was used in some terrorist activities. So these kind of concerns have been raised time to time. And India can also ensure that the constitution is being sort of imposed on these intermediaries. They can't just rely on freedom given to them because of Section 79A. There are many other powers which government holds, and I think we can definitely regulate WhatsApp to follow digital personal data protection law, which is also passed and under execution now within 18 months or 12 months. I'm sure WhatsApp will follow those guidelines as they have done it for US or Europe.
Yeah, and you know, this is not the first time that the platform has faced such allegations. So the question is, why is WhatsApp facing privacy allegations again? And what does this mean for its users globally? Very quickly, sir.
Because see, just 2 weeks before, I think a company, they have filed a case in US, which includes the representatives from India, Australia, Brazil, and other countries, where they have clearly mentioned that WhatsApp is actually sharing this data out. And where they claim that end-to-end encryption, which is not true. And they have enough evidences for this. I think this has raised concern globally. And that's why even in India, people are worried. And Supreme Court has taken that cognition because of that case, which is in court right now in US as well. So these concerns are not new. You remember that in 2019, we had a Pegasus malware, which gets installed in your iPhone to WhatsApp only. You used to get missed call on WhatsApp. And then WhatsApp said that, oh, we didn't know that there's a 0-day vulnerability and can be exploited. And, oh, okay, we'll fix it. But for last 4 years, NSO organization Israel, they were selling this software to the entire world. How could WhatsApp deny this that they didn't know it? This is not acceptable.
Absolutely.
That's why every time we concern, WhatsApp has to rethink about their strategy to ensure confidence among their users.
Okay. You know, if pushed to choose, the big question is who's going to blink first? Is it going to be Meta or is it going to be the Indian state? We'll have to wait and watch. But Mr. Amit Dubey, thank you very much for speaking with RT India.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But those are the latest developments this hour on RT India. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.